What's up, guys? Lance, the Obscure Movie Guy, coming to you once again with another fun-filled, fact-filled video that you probably won't care about, but we're going to do it anyways, trying to change the world one post at a time. And today we're taking a look in what can only be described as the most obscure thing I've ever done. A extreme art house experimental film with little to no plot, but pushes the boundaries of filmmaking, takes the oligarchy of traditional filmmaking, and spits in its face. Today we're going to be taking a look at The Benefactress. There's not even a trailer to show you because it's so extreme. Showing you anything but the few stills that I have could potentially cause some sort of ban on my YouTube or Instagram or whatever the case may be. So there is no trailer to show you. And this is not a film in any traditional sense. So we don't have a plot to go over. Most of the things that I usually critique films on, such as production quality or sound quality, all of that's thrown out the window with this film. This film is, as I said, an extreme art house expression and experimental film that really just pushes the boundaries of traditional filmmaking, mocks them, takes the oligarchy of it all, spits in its face, and goes against the grain in every way. So basically, I had a guy reach out to me that goes by the alias of Gorilla Metropolitana, an Italian who's currently living in London. Really nice guy. I'll be very upfront about that. Super nice guy. He was very upfront about everything. Asked me if I wanted to take a look at his film, forewarned me the content of the film. And after he did his homework, taking a look at my YouTube page, he was like, well, it's not traditional horror. It's not really a movie per se. It's probably not your cup of tea. And if you don't want to do it, I understand. But I also want to push my boundaries as a film reviewer or critiquer, however you may want to label that. So I took a gamble, and I was like, you know what? Let's do it. If I can't make it through the film, then I can't make it through the film, and I won't do a review, because that's not fair to him. If I can't see the whole thing, then it's not fair for me to do a review. And that goes for anybody that sends me anything. If I can't make it through your film, then I'm not going to give you a review, because that's not fair to you as the person seeking the review. So we had an agreement that if I couldn't get through it, then I wouldn't do anything about it. I was able to get through it. He's right. It's not my cup of tea, but he's pushing the boundaries of filmmaking. I wanted to push my boundaries as a film reviewer and critiquer. So here's what we've come up with. So despite there not being a plot, there is a little bit of at least a backstory to how the film came about. Everybody in this film basically goes by an alias. You have Gorilla Metropolitana, who we talked about, who is the writer and director, editor, filmographer, pretty much everything in between. There is a couple of actresses, Juicy X and Mystery Woman. Mystery Woman basically plays victim, while Juicy X plays, I don't know, the antagonist. This was funded by Electra McBride, also an alias. The story goes that Electra McBride is actually the wife of a very popular Christian televangelist here in the States. And I have my suspicions. Not going to say anything about who the husband might be, but regardless of that fact, I guess being an oppressed woman from a religious standpoint, she funded the film under the condition that she could watch the filming live as it's happening, which is kind of what you get. Like I said, it's truly obscure, and we're going to dive into a lot of different stuff, but I want to give that backstory, despite there not being a plot for the actual film itself. Like I said, everybody's got an alias. The film's shrouded in a lot of controversy. It's a very much love-hate relationship. Either you're going to watch this and you're going to think this is amazing, this is a great work of art, you're absolutely going to hate it, you're absolutely going to love it. Very few people like myself, kind of indifferent. I was able to take myself out of, I was able to kind of remove myself from what I was watching a little bit and truly look at it as a piece of art, which art is subjective. And art is very much, in any sense, whether it be a drawing, a picture, um, performance art, whatever the case may be, is very subjective. And in a lot of cases, you either love what you're seeing or you hate it. Now, as the film starts, there is a disclaimer telling you basically what you're about to see. You're not ready for it, don't watch it. From there, we get an additional disclaimer from Juicy X, one of the actresses, um, giving out some sort of personal disclaimer and how she came about doing the project and how she met Gorilla Metropolitana. Um, and then from there, we dive into the film itself. And again, there's not really a plot here, but from what you can gather, um, basically you have Juicy X and Mystery Woman, and it starts off in black and white, and it starts off with a pretty mundane. Um, we'll dive into that a little bit between the black and white and the colorization of the film. But you dive in black and white, Juicy X, pretty mundane, kind of going about her morning. It seems like eating breakfast, and then she comes across. You find she has Mystery Woman, who's already tied up and bound, chained, leashed, however you want to look at it, um, and drags her upstairs, and then proceeds to do not so great things to her, completely against her will. Um, I do want to take a side note here just to let you guys know that everything you do see in the film, despite its nature, it was all consensual. Some of it was improvisation, but they didn't know when something was going to happen, but they knew something was going to happen. Is basically how that kind of improvisation works. So they knew what they signed up for. It was all done with consent, despite what it actually looks like. Um, but there's a lot of sexual SA, I guess you have to say online these days, because you might get banned or something like that. So the whole thing is basically SA, Juicy X against Mystery Woman. Um, so it does start off black and white, but when you start looking at it from an artistic standpoint, you start to pick up on some of the nuances and some of the details and what Gorilla is trying to express through this film. Now, as I said, it does start black and white, but there is some colorization to the film, which is kind of interesting how they played that out because it's almost as if it's a film within a film. So the black and white, and again, I could be completely wrong in this interpretation, but it seemed like the black and white represented kind of like the mundane, normal day type stuff that you're just doing. The colorization is when the director, Gorilla himself, is actually filming and live streaming what is happening. It's a bit of a yin and yang type thing. And the colorization is usually when the SA stuff is happening versus the black and white when the SA stuff is not happening. And there's also a lot of subliminal messaging throughout the course of this film, whether it be through some auditory sounds, the sound effects themselves, the music. There's even quick glimpses of subliminal flash messages to kind of tell you, and you got to pay attention. The film demands your undivided attention to catch a lot of this stuff. But for example, when you first meet Mystery Woman, you get a quick flash across the screen of victim. So that represents that you know that this lady, unfortunately, is the victim to which things are about to happen. But the music and the sound effects play an integral part in this film, the way it's telling its story. There's a constant like camera roll kind of going to give you the sense that what you're watching is being filmed. There's also like camera clicks as if they're taking still shots of the worst moments of what is happening. Um, there's also music that plays. Music sometimes sets the tone, the ambiance. In some cases, uh, in one particular case, they were using just a single note on a piano, the tone, in sequence with stuff that's going on screen, almost to represent each thrust of what is happening. Um, Again, very integral part into the film telling process or the storytelling process in this case, even though it's not really much of a story. Another one of the subliminal messages that you'll come across a couple of times is a sign that basically says, do what you love. In this case, Gorilla, being the filmmaker, is doing what he loves. He's made other films kind of like this, but not quite this extreme. His previous film, Darius, was kind of along the same lines, but didn't quite push the boundaries as far as this one. But in this case, he is doing what he loves. He loves being a filmmaker. He loves being a performance artist, which is really what this comes down to, is more performance art than anything else. It's just performance art that is recorded in this case. Some of the other nuances and subtext that you might be able to pick up on is Electra McBride, the woman that funded the project. She is watching at certain points. You see her watching through a live stream, wearing nothing but a GIMP mask and playing with herself while things are happening on screen. This is almost a representation of you as the audience viewer. In some cases, she has her face covered but is still playing with herself, almost as if to represent you, the viewer. You don't want to see what's going on screen, but you almost kind of can't look away, and you kind of want to see what's happening, and you want to kind of see how it plays out. Very nuanced, as I said. Now, about halfway through the film, we do finally see Gorilla make his grand entrance as the director. And this is where you're able to kind of put the pieces to the puzzle together a little bit as far as the visual effects go, when you're taking a look at like the black and white versus the colorization, and him being the director filming what is actually happening. You can see that transition happen when they stop filming versus when they are filming the film within the film. Best way I can explain it. But he's kind of irritated. He's angry. He's an aggressive guy. He's not that way in real life. I'll tell you that much. I spent a lot of time corresponding with this gentleman. Doesn't come off as anything that you see on screen. So kind of an interesting dynamic from what I've experienced personally with this guy versus what I'm seeing on screen with this guy. But again, you get a few nuances and a few slaps in the face to traditional cinema in this case, because now we're at a point now where you hear and see how aggressive he is in the language that he uses. However, the irony is that with his language and his cussing, they actually use the good old fashioned censorship beep to bleep out the bad words, which is kind of a slap in the face to traditional syndicated filmmaking or even syndicated shows or films that get put out, where, and I always thought this was odd, but like I looked at it like, you're going to bleep out that, but you're still going to show that. Or in some cases of just the words themselves. You ever notice on, like, you're watching something on TV and they say asshole, they bleep out the hole, but not the ass? So you can say ass on television, but you can't say asshole? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And that's kind of what you're getting with this, is kind of a mockery of that syndicated censorship that you might see on television. It was pretty clever. Another thing that was kind of interesting with that syndicated censorship, and even censorship you see in some movies, when they are beating Mystery Woman physically, they blank it out. They blank out the actual strikes, which they're not actually hitting her. Let's be clear about that. They do a lot of bad stuff to her. They don't actually beat her. Again, kind of a mockery of the censorship. You're not going to do that, but you're going to do that. And the same thing goes with the beatings, is that they blank out the screen when she gets hit, but so you're not going to show her getting struck in the face, but you're going to show her getting shafted. Again, mockery of traditional censorship. Another clever thing that Gorilla did with the along the lines of that subliminal messaging is some fourth wall breaks, where there's even one little scene where he's carrying Mystery Woman to a mirror, and it just a quick flash across the screen just says "Hello, audience," like he knows you're watching. There's also another time where he actually talks to the audience with one quick line, but I'm not going to say what the line is. It's a little disturbing, but whatever the case may be, there is a bit of a fourth wall break. So he knows you as an audience member are watching, despite whether you want to or not. Now, as I said, it is art house extreme. I was forewarned about this. Um, from a fundamental standpoint, I don't have much to stand on, because most of my fundamentals that I check off is usually production quality, sound quality, acting, stuff like that. But none of that stuff really applies in this case. If I had really anything to say as far as a negative connotation from a fundamental standpoint, I would say that the runtime, which is roughly 67 minutes, probably doesn't need to be that long. Realistically, you probably could have said the same messages and performed the same acts in, a third of the time, half the time, and still get the same message across. Um, And realistically, there's only a couple of scenes. There's one scene, the opening scene, where you first see Juicy X beating Mystery Woman. I felt that particular scene ran probably a minute or two too long. You get the gist of what's going on. You get the general idea. It just becomes redundant and repetitive after a certain point. There's another scene later in the film as well. Um, I would just call it the licking scene. Juicy X is doing stuff to Mystery Woman while Gorilla yells "lick," because he wants more of it, more of it, more of it. Um, but again, that's another. It was much like the other scene. Like, you got your point across, 45 seconds ago. You probably could have cut that scene by another minute or two, because it just becomes, after the point is made, it just becomes repetitive and redundant. All in all, if you're into art house, to the most extreme and experimental kind, this might be up your alley. If you're a casual viewer, this is not for you. Don't even waste your time. If you're a casual viewer, you're going to watch it and you're going to be one of those people that just want to put it down, who don't quite get what Gorilla is trying to convey. So I wouldn't waste your time if you're a casual viewer. And if you are a casual viewer and you don't like it, understand that you're the casual viewer. Probably don't leave a review. This is not for everybody. This is for a very, very niche audience. And this is basically filmed performance art at its most extreme. Um, some people praise it, some people don't. I kind of look at it subjectively from both angles. I'm not going to chastise it because I don't 100% get it. As Austin Powers would say, it's not my bag, baby. Um, but I can understand what Guerrilla Metropolitana is trying to do. Um, and I think he took a huge risk. I mean, he knows he was taking a huge risk. In trying to put something together like this. There's a lot of controversy surrounding the film. Um, but I think it says a lot about him wanting to try and push the boundaries of something like this, to express himself, not just as a filmmaker, but as a human being. And I think it also says a lot about the actresses involved, Mystery Woman and Juicy X. As I said earlier, I mean, everything was consensual. That was made abundantly clear through multiple sources, not just him. So I think it says a lot about them as actresses wanting to sign up to do something like this. Maybe not only just to because it's not really, you're not really portraying a character, but how far are you willing to go for a performance? So I think it says a lot about them. One, wanting to do such a thing, but also willing to work with somebody like Gorilla Metropolitana. So I think it says a lot about him with a filmmaker. So despite them doing some very, very uncomfortable things on film, um, they were comfortable enough to do it. So I think that says a lot about their character and his character. And this is not the first time that Juicy X has collaborated with Gorilla Metropolitana. So I think that says a lot that if she's willing to work with him on multiple things. So there is some comfortability there working with somebody like that, despite the nature of what you're working on. As far as Electra McBride goes, like I said, she's the wife of a Christian evangelist, very popular one apparently, and I guess she is just not happy in that lifestyle or marriage, and she is finding a way to express herself. So that is what it is. I'll leave my speculations to myself. Um, Now, coincidentally, this film does have distribution. It got distribution from Blood Pact Films here in the United States. And if I don't know much about them, I did a quick check on them. They do have a few other films. They've got Grimwood getting ready to come out. They have Anointed. And it looks like they specialize in kind of, I know there's some distribution companies that kind of specialize in off the wall stuff like Breaking Glass Entertainment, SRS, Bayview Entertainment. They all kind of cater to like the independent filmmakers, but Blood Pact seems to be willing to pick up the stuff that they're not. Like, hey, this is too extreme for us. We're gonna pass. Where Blood Pact was like, you know what? I saw it. I dig it. We love it. We'll take a chance on it. We'll make it happen. So I think it says a lot. Honestly, it says a lot about Gorilla and everything he's got going. If people want to work with him on things like this, it's an interesting concept. Performance art has always been realistically the most extreme variation of art you can do. If anybody's familiar with the hell's her name? Marina Abramovich from like the 70s. Man, look that girl up and read about some of her performance arts. And that is exactly the type of group that Guerrilla Metropolitana has fallen into. Like, it is performance art to the most extreme. It just happens to be filmed now. I will say, in small regard, this does come off more as a snuff film. It is pornographic in nature. However, it is not necessarily porn. There is a distinction. If anybody's ever watched good old Skinamax as a kid, you'll understand like softcore versus hardcore. Um, so, despite that it is pornographic in nature, it's not necessarily a porno, for lack of a better term. So, that's my take on the Benefactress. Super interesting film. I will say one more thing because if you watch it and you pay enough attention to the details and the nuances, you'll actually come to the realization that Guerrilla Metropolitana is actually a very clever writer. He's very clever at what he's doing. And what sucks in that regard is I honestly think this guy could make a really, really good movie if he wanted to go that route. If he wanted to actually write something that's a story, that's a plot, because of the way he kind of is able to put some of that subtext into like auditory sounds, sound effects, visual effects. Like, the sound effects in this film is just an auditory symphony between the music and the sound effects and how they work with one another and how it does complement the film, even though it's in its even in its most disgusting regards, it still complements the film. So Gorilla, I think honestly, if he really wanted to sit down and like make like a horror movie or like a horror comedy, like I think it would probably be brilliant. He strikes me as a really clever filmmaker that could really not just push the bounds, but like make a really good story and present it and execute it in a very good way. But to each their own. If that's not his thing, and this is, that's great. Honestly, I'm probably never going to see this again. I'm not going to go looking for it. If Gorilla wants me to look at something else, I would be hesitant, but I wouldn't say no up front. I'd probably talk to him a little bit more about it. So, props to everybody involved: Juicy X, Mystery Woman, Electra McBride, Guerrilla Metropolitana, and Blood Pact Films. You've definitely come across something and made something that is truly unique. That even if people love it or hate it, they are not going to forget it. That is for sure. So, like, subscribe, and comment to my YouTube channel. Go to Blood Pact Films. You can check them out on Facebook, YouTube, online. You can order The Benefactress. It is available on Blu-ray. Like I said, it's got US distribution, so good for them. So check it out if you can find it. I'll see everybody in the next video.